Okay, here we go again. I'm showing you basically the photo that I took that's right outside my door, this little landscape that I'm going to do. And what I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with the one without the snow, and then I'm going to basically do in a separate video the one with the snow. And I'm going to start out with the tone canvas board. Okay, and just to go over the brushes that I'm using Richardson Gray Matters brushes. This is a number 6, number 4. These are flats, and I have a round that's a number 2. First thing I'm going to do, I use this medium, it's Neo-Meglip. There's all types of mediums out there. This is the one I prefer, and the brushes that I just showed you are the ones that I prefer. I've gone through all kinds of brushes over the years. So to start with, I'm just going to take some burnt sienna and roughly establish where I think the line for the sky is going to be. I'm going to move the mountains. You can see there's a mountain range back there, but I'm going to actually move it to adjust the composition. And I'm going to basically put in a large pinion on this side and balance it over here on the smaller one over here on the other side. And then I'm going to put a cast shadow in, which appears very well in the snow, the photo with the snow. And of course there's smaller shapes back here that I'll basically mass in. And basically that's my composition. And I didn't even have to do this. Essentially, I just went through the drawing, the sketch in, but you could have actually started massing in without this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to start with a number 4 flat, or it might be a filbert, I'm not sure. And I'm going to put in some of the greens that we mixed. Okay, so these are the greens that we mixed the other day. And they're sort of a middle tone. They're not too dark, they're not too light. Just going to mass those in real quickly. Again, you remember if you're doing plein air outside, you got to work really fast. And there's one over here. There's one back here. There's a small one there. There's another one here. Small one here. Small one over here. Let me mass this in completely. And I'm not sparing with the paint. I'm basically putting on as heavy as I can. And again, with plein air painting, you don't have to be really accurate. You're trying to basically get the light effects down as fast as you can. And I'm not going too dark or too light. I sort of mixed everything yesterday so I could save some time. And you might want to do this actually in practice outside. Okay, so that's my general composition. Now, I can clean this brush off. And then I think the next thing I'm going to do is, and I'm going to put the sky in. And again, yesterday, or the video that I recorded yesterday, I essentially mixed the sky color. And I'm just going to basically just clean this brush off. I'm not going to wash it off with turpentine. I usually use Turpenoid, which is an odorless paint thinner. There's all sorts of this on the market. I wouldn't basically use straight turpentine. The smell will kill you. Alright, so now this is the sky color I mixed the other day. It's a little too dark, but I'm going to lighten it in a little while. So let's just mass this in. Okay, we had a little accident there. Let's just keep going. I'll clean this up in a second. Let's keep massing in the sky color. Okay, I'm not going to go into I'm going to stop right before the trees and right before my mountain line. And the next thing I'm going to put in is going to be the mountain line. And we premixed that the other day. Again, I'm not just gonna wipe my brush off. I'm not gonna basically wash it off with turpentine. And again, this is the purple color we basically mixed the other day. And these are my mountains. I don't care if it mixes with the blue a little bit or even with the green. That's the mountain line back there. And again, I'm ad-libbing here. Actually, in the mountain is really, it's the Sandia mountain range, and it's actually much more to the right. Okay, so now we have the mountain line masked in. Again, I'm going to clean my brush off. Let me just clean a little bit of this stuff that fell on the brush when it dropped on the little panel dropped on the floor. I should have this tied down better, but again, it's just a quick demonstration. So let me increase the mass of this bush a little bit. So I basically cover up the sky that's still open. All right, so the next thing I'm going to put in, again, are the cast shadows. And for the cast shadows, I'm actually going to take some of my sky color because the ground is going to be painted in. So this is some of my sky color. You notice it looks lighter against the gray toned canvas compared to the sky, which was competing against the darks of the trees. So these are all cast shadows. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put in the ground cover. And that's going to be mostly, this is yellow ochre, and I'm going to actually use some burnt sienna in a second. Let me just mask some of this in with yellow ochre. And I am going to overlap some of the cast shadows. Again, if I had put the ground color in, which is going to be a burnt, basically a burnt sienna, yellow ochre combination, I would have painted the shadows over that. I am going to actually do that in a second. Again, the shadow on the cast shadow from the trees on the ground would be the complement, which would be a blue purple because the ground is basically an orange yellow. That's basically the ground color out here in New Mexico. Okay, so I'm basically just covering the entire canvas. So make sure we get everything covered. And this is what you do out if I was outside, which is, like I said, this is right outside my front door. If I was painting this right outside my front door, this is what I would be doing. I'd be doing this as fast as I can before the light changed, just to get the main value pattern and some of the color pattern in there. What I'm really worried about right now is essentially the composition and the value pattern. I'll adjust the color in a little while. So now, without cleaning my brush, I'm going to darken this up front, put some burnt sienna in. Again, I'm dealing with atmospheric perspective, which means the further I go back, the darks basically get lighter, the lights get darker, and you go to essentially a neutral gray blue or gray purple. So what I want to do now is I want to adjust the sky. The sky's too dark. So I want to adjust the sky a little bit and actually put some white into the trees, decrease the value of the trees to capture atmospheric perspective. So to do that, I'm going to take some white and I'm going to mix it with some of my tree color. And I'm going to basically just lighten some of these trees back here. Also, without cleaning the brush, I'm going to take some yellow ochre, and the light is actually coming. These were taken in the morning, so the light is actually coming from the east, and the shadow is being cast towards the west. So the east here would be to my left, and the west would be to my right. Okay, so now I'm going to wipe my brush off again. And like I said, the sky is too dark, so I'm going to take some white and I'm going to lighten it towards the horizon, and there's actually a little yellow ochre mixed in there. And if I overlap the mountains, that's okay. Blur them out a little bit. Now there's also some clouds in this, so I'm going to take more white and suggest some clouds. And again, I'm going to refine this further when I go on next time. This is basically just the preliminary lay-in. Okay, so I want to do a little more work on the foreground before I quit and let this dry and then go back and rework it. So I've actually put some white, some grays in with the yellow ochre. Okay, you noticed in the original photograph there were some sky holes, so I'm going to put those in now too and refine them later. Again, I'm going to go back to my premixed blue. There were sky holes. And lighten it up a little bit. Okay, I want to basically mix more of the complementary color into the cast shadows. And I'll do one more thing, and then I'm going to call this over for the time being, and then we'll refine it more in the next video. I'm going to go back to my premixed green, and I'm going to mix it with my premixed dark. Okay, my premixed dark was made with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, so I want more darks in some of these trees, particularly near the bottom. And I'm going to put, again, some of this to suggest modifications in the ground. Go back and do one more thing. I'm going to put a little more of my premixed green in the main trees. You can see I'm already starting to build up some value pattern, some color pattern in these trees. And the last thing I want to do, I still want to make that sky a little bit lighter. It's a little too dark, so I'm going to go in with more white and actually ultramarine blue. Make it a little lighter towards the horizon. And again, I'm adding some of the color all over the canvas. Let me go back in and put a little more white in those clouds. Again, I'm keeping everything, nothing is, again, in terms of the composition, I got 1/3 sky, 1/3 middle ground, and 1/3, well, basically the sky is 1/3, and the ground cover and the mountains are the rest of the canvas, about 2/3 or more. The middle ground's about 1/3, the sky is about 1/3, and the foreground's about 1/3. And I have the composition sort of balanced between the mountain shape and this other smaller pinion here against the big pinion on the left. So I'm going to probably let that dry, and then we're going to work back into it to actually refine it more. But this would give me what I needed initially. If I was doing a plein air painting, I would basically have everything I needed offhand without the light changing too much.